Good afternoon. Well, good morning to you, Vee. Thank you for joining me today on Multi-Vice Podcast. How are you?
I'm very good. If you hear pitter patters in the background, it's my dog. He's just waiting.
Bring him on. Bring him on.
Feeling a little left out. Yeah, no, I'm good, Anisha. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me today. Well, joining me, and let's get started.
Yes, let's.
You've worked for companies both in the UK, gone to Paris, and now you're in Canada. You've worked for LMS, for Saks. You've been a columnist for Onoki magazine, and now you're an entrepreneur. Can you tell me more why you left the UK and now you're in Canada?
Well, I left the UK for love. We do it. But I will be honest, I always say to my husband, I'm like, you know what? You just couldn't find a Canadian girl, so you had to come all the way over the pond and find. I think if you asked him, it would be a different story. However, I got married to a Canadian, hence why I'm here. We've been married close to almost 25 years. But in that time, I have gone back and forth between the UK and Canada, different parts of Canada and obviously different parts of the UK. But I have been back in Toronto, Canada for almost, I think, 16 years now. So yeah, this is home for now.
Fantastic. But you worked for LMS and Saks in London, and you've set up your own studio in Canada. How have the opportunities presented themselves for you? Was it difficult to do both, or do you feel more settled with your studio in Canada? What have you learned from that?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think the whole entrepreneurial thing is in my blood. My granddad, many years ago, started a little, so he was a tailor, and so he would make different ladies' clothing, blouse, skirts, blah, 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 and started designing that from his kitchen table. It slowly grew into, different factories around the UK. My dad, his 5 brothers were all involved. It was a big family business. At the end, before they actually sold a few years ago, I think it was around 2015, they actually sold the business because everybody retired, got older. At that point, we had locations in like Singapore and different parts of Europe, and it was a massive manufacturing organization. So I think in terms of entrepreneur, I think it's embedded. It runs through my veins. So I think I'm always, looking for the next project within my field of work. I'm not that entrepreneur which tries lots of different things. I kind of have my passion, which is skin. And that's kind of what I keep growing. In terms of what opportunities have presented themselves between the UK and Canada, it's really interesting. I don't think I was in the UK long enough, probably, to have a real definite answer on where, my career has grown more or less. I can't really give an educated answer on saying, well, Canada outweighs UK for such and such reason. I think I just know that this is my journey, and whether I'm in, Canada or the UK or the States, who knows? I think it's just my passion and my vision just to keep growing and reaching as many ears that will listen to me and my voice of knowledge.
Well, you've got someone across 2 ponds, can I say that? So I'm on the other side of the UK and I'm listening, so it's all good.
There we go. Let's try and spread our message as much as possible.
Definitely. Yeah. So you mentioned entrepreneurs embedded in your blood, inside of you. You grew up in the UK, and a lot of South Asian families were always like, the 3 main things: pursue medicine or pursue, accountancy, and the typical Indian topics that are safe. But because you're from a family that are entrepreneurs, was it easy for you to get the support to say to your family, over a dinner or over, a coffee? So, you know what, Dad, Mum, I want to pursue a degree in skin and beauty and science of skin. Was it a supportive environment, or were they the parents that were like, okay, how are you going to, support yourself? Or is there a future in this? What was it like?
It's really interesting you answer that question. So I I think as a young individual during that time, there was a lot of curiosity around different jobs and different careers, and so I remember at one point I said to my parents, I mean, I'm 46, so this is like many years ago, and I said, "Oh, I want to be an air hostess. Like that's my thing. I want to travel and I want to be, an air hostess." And such a glamorous like world. I mean, who knows what happens behind closed doors? When you look at it, oh, like their makeup's good, their hair's good, their nails on point. Like, that's what I want to do. And like you said, you point out we're, Indian, and my parents are like, "Oh no. You cannot be an air hostess. Like, how are you gonna juggle your family?" Mind you, at this point, I'm probably like 15 or 16. I'm not even to have marriage, they're like, "Well, what will happen when you have babies, and who will be at home?" And I was like, "Oh, like, but I'm not even there." No, no, you can't do that. And I was like, "Okay, cool, back to the drawing board." And then I was like, back in the day, it was like nurses had like these beautiful, like little pinafores and the little hats. And I was like, "Oh, I'm going to be a nurse." And I was like, "Mom, Dad, that's it. I know I'm going to be a nurse." And they were like, "Oh, no. What is the hours? And how will you look after your babies and your family?" And I was like, holy moly, like they're really throwing every obstacle. Anyway, I picked a number of different things, which obviously never for my parents did it coincide with me being a mom. Who knows at that point, did I even want to be a mom? I don't know. I was like 14 or 15. I was living my best life. And so I was like, cool, like no worries. So fast forward, obviously in the UK, we go from secondary school to college, then to university. So my next step was going to college. And I was like, you know what? I want to be a beautician. That's what I want to do. And I think I had probably traumatized my parents with so many different careers. They were like, right, great. She wants to be a beautician. She's on ground level. She's never going to leave her family, which I don't even have at this point. She's going to be with her husband. She's going to live in a house with a white picket fence. Yeah, done. Signed and sealed. Like, yeah, you should do that. So I think that decision probably came really easy because they were like, okay, this is like finally she's found something that is viable within the Indian culture. So I think let me run with it after that. They were like, yeah, okay, that's good. Second best thing, that's great. Yeah.
But I love how the theme was family and children and mother.
Oh, yeah.
Always. They want to be grandparents. Yeah. That's all they're thinking about. Their next step.
Yeah. But it's so interesting because there was never an emphasis on career. There was always an emphasis on a job.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really interesting shift in our current climate, because now it's all about career, which adds a level of passion rather than just a 40-hour week or whatever that looks like, and just going because it pays the bills.
Definitely. I think, because you said your generation were the ones that were exploring different things as opposed to the generation before. So when we started, it was a bit easier for us to go, I'm not studying that. I'm going to do something in food or something in, I don't know, sports, because it was so different. But the opportunities were more open as opposed to two generations above, And I think your generation and the ones before have made it easy for the rest of us to go, well, I'm going to become a pilot. And that's what I'm going to do. So it has presented more opportunities, so to speak. So
you're welcome.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah. I can give you the tenner back. It's all good. So then, talking of like 2022 and opportunities we're just talking about now, what has life taught you this year in terms of yourself and growing and your business?
Yeah. So I think I'd have to answer that question from like backpedaling to 2020,
Okay.
because 2020 was when we all globally went into a pandemic lockdown.
Yep.
And I think in our day and age, we haven't, I mean, yes, we have wars, but not significantly to the point where we're going into shelters and so on and so forth. And, knock on wood, and we're very grateful for that, that
Mm-hmm.
safety, I would say. But I think 2020, when we did go into a global lockdown and we were like, oh, wait, your life literally stops in a blink of an eye, and nobody has any ability to have any leeway on movement. It,
Mm-hmm.
as a esthetician, as a facialist who provides a service which is hands-on, touching a client face forward, that obviously, proves to be a huge challenge, because I can't touch anyone now. I can't be in person with anyone. Well, how do I still continue my business without having to say, okay, well, I need to change my career, because that was never an option. My career is my passion. That's what I live and breathe every day when I wake up.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what the pandemic taught me was, how do I creatively build a business that will be safe enough to be able to share messaging around how to look after your skin and the health and the well-being of it without me having to touch it. And so that, I think, allowed a deeper conversation and a step back to really reevaluate the business as a whole, and how, as facialists, we kind of navigate through this new journey. And so during that time, I mean, we have an e-commerce platform, which we're very grateful for. So we ship, everywhere. We do skincare, we do beauty tools, we do supplements. So that obviously allowed revenue to carry on, coming through. And then I, launched virtual consultations. So just guiding people on how to look after their skin, and with the current climate and the stress levels being that much more heightened, what are some of the things that you're noticing on your epidermis that isn't just necessarily coming there because it's a skin thing. It's more of a, stress health issue or a gut health issue. So it was really just kind of, again, broadening my horizons by offering alternative, services, which didn't require me to touch a face and be with it. So I navigated the business and totally flipped it. I think what I learned from that was to create balance in my life. And I think it really made me sit back and say, in a blink of an eye, your whole world can come to a standstill. So all these plans that we've made for the next year, and I'm traveling here, and then we're going to do this, and then my kids this, and we've got to attend this, it all just stopped. And so it made me be more present in that moment. It made me say, I need to have balance. So working from home, living at home, how do you create those boundaries where you can say, right, I'm working and now I've switched off my laptop, and now I'm a mom, a wife, or I'm Vee, where I need to just decompress at the end of my day. So I think it just allowed me to create balance, is probably what I've learned.
That was a beautiful story. Just listening, and your passion was just coming through of your emotions. It was really nice, because I think people forget that, and I think now that COVID's still around, people have still continued working from home, and they've lost the ability to disconnect work and home life, because they think, well, it's easy, I don't have to go anywhere. But I think it's important, like you said, stop, balance, and be the person you want to be, or be the mother, or be the friend, or just be yourself. And I think that's so important for your mental health as well.
100%, Nisha. I totally agree to that. I think it's such an important factor, and it allows you to run on full steam rather than on. which
Definitely.
I feel like pandemic, a lot of us ran on empty. We ran on fumes.
We did. And I think, I think people now are understanding a bit more, and I hope as well for some of us that we do have the balance of, okay, I'll go to the office 2 days a week. I'm just going to stay home another couple of days. I don't have to go either 100% here or 100% there. It's nice to have the balance of both. And, I hope people still continue that, and businesses, embrace that as well for their employees. So I think that'd be really cool. So my next question for you, for those of you or my listeners that do not remember, your experience led you to Chris and Stephen. And I remember your videos. It was really, really was fantastic. As a beauty and skin expert, what has that experience been like for you?
In terms of being on the lifestyle show?
Yeah, being on the lifestyle show, but has it also helped you in your future, future ideas or things you want for your business, like being because in North America, you are one of the skin experts to go to, but has that experience of Chris and Stephen presented more opportunities like that for you? And, what did you learn from it?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I remember, being on the Stephen and Chris show, which is, a lifestyle show that was aired probably almost, I don't know, like 14, 15 years ago. It's not an instant gratification. And what I mean by that is going on the show, being the expert, talking about whatever the topic was at the time, didn't naturally just progress into, people booking facials or people visiting a website to purchase whatever it was that I was talking about. And that was really interesting because that was my first exposure to TV. And so people look at TV and they're like, oh my God, such and such is on screen, which means that it naturally just turns into dollars. And it's not always the scenario. And I remember when a few months later, I, started writing for Anoki, and I remember speaking to my editor-in-chief, Henna, and I said to her, goes, it's really strange because, you write and you write these things and you're like, right, you're putting it out in the world, or you speak on television and you put it out in the world, but you don't know how the person hearing or reading it is receiving the information. So you're doing it and you're like, well, did you like it? Did it make sense? So it's a very stressful place to be because, you start looking at yourself and you're like, did I do it right? Did I not? Should I have done something different? And it can be a real rabbit hole because you can start spiraling and thinking, oh my God, I'm absolute rubbish. Nobody likes what I say, you don't know that because you don't hear the feedback. I mean, you hear it I heard it from my husband and my children and, my family and friends. And, my mom would be like, oh, beta, I'm so proud of you. And that was lovely. But your family is your family.
Yeah.
So, are you being biased now? So it was really interesting. I think I did the 2 seasons and it was wonderful. I didn't go on after that just because the show pivoted into other directions and then they progressed there. But I think it's a really superficial world. It's really, and I say that and I sometimes think, oh, I shouldn't have said that, but that's the truth of it. It's very superficial. And it's in that, 3 minutes of being on air or, some writing an article and it's in print or it's on, screen and then that's it. But you don't know what's going to come of it. In terms of opportunities that came from it, I would say it just allowed me to know that I can keep hustling. I think the hustle is something that I've naturally always had. And doesn't scare me to hustle. It doesn't scare me to work really hard. So I knew this was an opportunity that was, given to me and I took it and I embraced it and I enjoyed every moment. but how do I keep moving forward? And I think it's always just to be creative and, watching how our climate is changing. And now such social media people where everything is, a free for all. We can see everyone's doing, from our favorite celebrity to, somebody up the road who is our friend or a neighbor or whatever. I think it's just really interesting. It just allowed me to keep saying, right, this is the next thing I want to do. And then this is the next. There was no limitations for me, I felt.
That's
in
amazing.
my mind.
But that's amazing, because when you said it became a bit of a rabbit hole, it does become a bit of an occupational hazard. And like you say, so as an editor, I know the feeling of, was that right? Did I edit correctly? Will they understand that? Or is that Spanish into English or English into German? Like, it's a constant thing, because you're sometimes a self-doubt. I'm like you said, have I written it correctly? Or is it the right terminology? And it does become an occupational hazard. But you realize when people go, I read this article and it's great or whatever. But like you said, I don't share this with my family, because your family are your family, and they'll always say, this is amazing and well done. It's nice to hear it from other people, and I think that's when you go, okay, I'm doing what I'm doing is great. So continue it and look for other opportunities that present themselves as well. So
yes, agreed.
So leading on to that, I feel like representation for South Asian women in the community is notably limited. In the skincare and beauty industry, racial diversity has always been a hot topic of discussion. However, in skincare and beauty products, they've started becoming popular. More South Asian women are in the media. As a business, what has changed? What has that change been for you in Canada and globally?
So it's really interesting. I think there is more people like me within my industry. Are we like on par with all the other, races, if that's, what word we're using? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think there is so much more room for us to grow and to keep on growing. I still don't see people like me enough on my, searches, or founder stories, or, and again, I talk about this in my own industry. Like, I still, will still see makeup artists who are talking about makeup over skincare, and most of them will be white. Like, I don't see Indian people, being able to talk about it. And skincare wise, same thing. There's only less than a handful that I'm seeing slowly come up. So that's challenging, because again, as an entrepreneur, I have this vision and I have the hustle and I have this dream, and I keep on moving at 100 miles per hour. But there are those odd times where I'm like, oh my God, like, I've got this, like, am I where I'm needing to be? Like, I know I've got far, but have I got far enough? And then you do start comparing yourself to other people. And I try not to do it, and only from like the odd times, but it's hard, it's really hard, and people don't get it, and people will be like, well, like, you've achieved this much, this is amazing. And you're like, yeah, but is it? Like, is it to you because you're looking at it, but is it where I need to be? Like, am I representing my community to be able to empower them, and, for them to be able to take this platform and, excel and take it to the next level? I don't know. I am, but I don't know. But there's not enough of my voices.
I believe that. When I was doing a bit of research into the skin and beauty industry before this podcast session, and I put in, South Asian women skin experts globally, or beauty experts globally, and in all honesty, um, Africans and Asians and practically Africans and Asians were in the same bubble. And there was like one in Nigeria or one in Canada or, one in India. But then when you put in beauty experts, you'll see a long list of everyone in Europe, in North America, in the USA. And then you're like, oh, so are we doing enough? And when someone says, I believe that, someone says, oh, you're doing well. And you're like, well, no, I should be doing the same as somebody else in terms of, you are equally an expert as somebody else that could be white, that is white. And for someone to say, I feel like, oh, well done, but you're here.
Yeah.
It's like, well, no, I'm equally as good. My life has been this for like over 25 years. I'm changing the game, and you're changing the game for so many South Asian or even colored people. But there is always, I feel like we should never stop, because if we stop learning and we don't achieve anything, and we need to grow and find more opportunities and grab them, because we are also equally, if not better, in what we're doing. Because if you have passion, you'll excel so much more, because you're not doing it as a job, you're doing it because you love it. And I think it's difficult.
Yeah, I agree. It's really interesting. Like right now, if you probably look, there's a lot of like, larger skincare houses which are bringing on different facialists. It's like they're ambassadors. And I think it's lovely because, as facialists, we have the knowledge, the science backing, our conversations and our recommendations on why you might be experiencing a certain skin condition, or how to look after their skin when they're away from us, and what ingredients and what products to use. And so you have these, certain houses which are, creating these partnerships, paid partnerships. And when I look at those companies, majority of them will, do these paid partnerships for a year with these different facialists. But so far, every facialist that some of these companies have picked, which I've been watching, are all white.
Yeah, but it's curious to say that, because, it sounds really bizarre. It's really difficult to find product ranges for our skin type, because a lot of them, I know, aren't always tested on different skin tones. And so I remember when I lived in Alicante, my skin, actually, you know about this, but, my skin suffered terribly. I tried everything under the skin, and it's only since after I spoke to you, and I was like, look, I need help. I've tried everything under the skin, nothing is working. And then it's wonderful for you to find these products that work not just across all skin tones, because it's so difficult in the industry to find that. And the only place I actually really did find that was when I was in Singapore and in Thailand, because their products are tested and brands under the continent of Asia. And it's difficult because you can't find that in more Western countries, and it's hard.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So a couple of years ago, up until now, I actually thought when, companies say we did clinical trials for, this serum, and we saw, 90% reduction in fine lines and wrinkles, I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. And in my mind, my naive mind, I thought they were doing these clinical trials on a broad Fitzpatrick scale, meaning everybody from blonde hair, blue eyes, all the way to, African American skin tones. So everything in that Fitzpatrick. And I actually realized just a few years ago, as I was building and curating my own skincare companies that I wanted to be able to retail within my own location, online and in studio, that a lot of these companies were only doing clinical trials on blonde hair, blue eyes.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, so, okay, you noticed a 97% reduction in fine lines and wrinkles on the blonde hair, blue eyed person. But what happens to my hair's blonde. I pay a lot of money for it. The point to this is that what happens to the Indian girl?
Yeah.
What happens to the Indian guy? What happens to the African American or the Asian? Like, where are those people? And so you're just not going to do the trials on them because why? Like, it doesn't matter. That really got my blood boiling. And there were companies where read their clinical trials, their white papers, I was like, no, thank you. It's great that you have this science and the backing, but the fact that you, in today's age, are still only doing your trials on white people, like, that makes no sense to me. And you pardon my French if I'm using the wrong terminology, and I always just want to be really mindful, but I'm just being very open and just very in, how hard it is. And it still is challenging. Like, big, massive companies are still only saying, right, we're only going to test on these people, and then everybody else will just have to figure it out. Like, really?
I find that curious, but it speaks so many volumes when you say it like that, because as a person, when you read 99%, fantastic rating or whatever it is, and then you get people like, oh, fantastic. It's that naivety of like, yeah, brilliant, it's got to work on me. And you're trying it, and you're like, wait, hold up. Who do they test it on? And that's when you realize, thinking, we have a small percentage of companies or brands that we can use, as opposed to the bigger companies, the bigger names. And I think it's such a shame, because it becomes a money pit, and it's such a shame. But well done you for being a game changer in the industry. So I think it speaks a lot of volume for people all over going, these have been tested on X, Y, and Z, and it should work, because if she's doing it, then, what you're supporting is what you're preaching as well. What you're saying is what you're preaching. So well done. And so that leads me to my next question. You have created an inclusive brand, right? And you've created your own SKINBYVEE cryo sticks.
Yes.
That attracts a wide audience of people. How are you different from your competitors?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So I created my SKINBYVEE gua sha cryo sticks, and I wish I had them in front of me, so I apologize, I don't. But the tool was created literally within my treatment room. And the tool was created because when I was doing facials, I would see so many people struggling with some level of inflammation. And when I talk about inflammation, it will present itself as acne or pigmentation or congestion or, redness or sensitivity, or even premature aging. And so all of those conditions are somewhat related back to a level of inflammation. And people were, throwing every product on their skin to try and control whatever it is that they're struggling with. And a lot of times it wasn't just one thing, which was, if I, throw on this exfoliator or this peel or this mask, it corrects it. It is more deeper rooted. So I always do look at, stress health and gut health. But what I found was people were using products solely, just ingredients, to try and counteract that, and sometimes actually making it worse. So increasing that trauma to the skin, whatever that condition was, and then furthermore compromising the skin barrier. So you're never fixing it. You're just maybe creating a little bit of a Band-Aid, effect, and it heals it for a little bit, and then it goes back to where it was. And so for quite a number of years now, all my facials are delivered cold. So, it's cold products. It's using modalities, but again, cold. I never steam. I never use hot towels. And all of this cryo was literally allowing my clients to leave my treatment table and look like they're balanced, like they look even, they look glowing. And even if they did have acne or pigmentation, it looked controlled. And so it's like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I'm a big believer of massage. I think even 1 to 2 minutes a day, just always upwards and outwards, doesn't have to be complicated. It's such a healing time, not just psychologically, but also the physical action of it. And then putting in cryo, which is as cold as possible, whether that be through your products or through your cold water. That was, again, helping further assist this controlling of the condition. So there was always these, different tools. So there was like different ice globes and different rollers and, washer by itself. But all these tools only would do one thing at a time. The gua sha helped sculpt and lift. But the challenge with that was every single person that I spoke to, when they said they had a gua sha tool, I asked them if they knew how to use it, and they said no. So you're using something and you have no idea. And then there was like people who were using these ice globes, these like little round ball things.
It
feels great. So you've got the cold. But when you have inflammation, the water that is contained within the glass ball warms up, because that's what happens. Inflammation is emitting heat. So now you're warming up. So your cryo delivery is such a short span of time. And so that kind of led me to thinking like, if I could only just like combine the two, which is massage and cryo. And I'd worked with like different like ladles, like different like spoon like, sticks. But again, they were so oddly shaped that you could never get into the crevice or into areas which was smaller. So you could never like really lift, and nor could you really go into these areas to help with calming capillaries and stuff like that. And so that was the birth of the gua sha cryo stick. And as I started using it, not only are we able to sculpt and lift, but we're able to deliver the cryo, because within the ladle, there is a gel padding that is embedded in there. So when you leave this tool in your freezer, it freezes the gel padding, which allows for a longer delivery of cryo. So that was the birth of the gua sha cryo stick. And what was really interesting is, I've always said this to clients, when people talk about pores, and they're like, oh, I hate my pores. They're so big. They're so big. And so over the last, couple of years, I think we've launched them. It's going to be a year at the beginning of November. But as we've launched them and more people have been using them, and my clients who have been using them diligently at home, I actually noticed that their pore sizes decreased. And I said, like, do you find like your pores are less pronounced? And they're like, yes. And I would always hesitate when people would be like, this minimizes your pores. I'm like, there is nothing that can minimize your pores. But the gua sha actually bring everything, it plumps it out, because we're sending that surge of oxygenation. And I literally have seen clients' pores minimize, the texture become more glass-like. If you struggle with lymph, it helps really sculpt and lymph and drain that away. Pigmentation, acne is massive. Like if you have those pustules and papules which are red, inflamed, and clients have said to me, I used it last night while I was watching my Netflix, and woke up this morning, and I would say confidently that it has reduced the acne by 50%. By 50, like that is insane.
But are you not impressed by something so simple that you've designed has had a major effect on so many different aspects of people's skin?
Correct. And so to offer a solution that can, deliver a result for so many different skin concerns, and for those individuals who have none of the above, but just want to use it as preventative, like that to me is check. Like I did my job, and I've offered, and a solution that is not overwhelming, because that was a big thing that I was hearing. Oh, I have, this tool and this LED light and this microcurrent and the gua sha and the this and the roller and the this. And when you ask them, like, do you know how to use it? Because my goal is always to educate my client that is in front of me. And every single person said no. Like nobody knew how to use their tool. So I created a tool which literally feels so natural in terms of its movement, that that's all it is. And I do a crap load of tutorials on my social media. So that always helps. But yeah, like the tool is insane. And, I'm so proud of it. And I've given myself the permission to be proud of it and to celebrate it.
You should.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's curious to say that, because I've grown up. So I've known you for over 25 years, possibly now. So I've grown up and you've seen my skin develop over all these years.
Yeah.
And
you're beautiful.
You have to say that. no, but like what I found was it's really difficult. So I've lived in Europe for quite some time now, but what I found was when I had my problem with skin, I went to so many facialists, leaving and always doing the facial experience. I'd always feel like annoyed because I'm like, it doesn't feel relaxing. I don't know what you're doing to my face. And I found one clinic. Unfortunately, they've closed because the woman retired, but she was incredible. And I left feeling like, wow, my skin, there is a difference. But any other sort of experience I've had, I don't enjoy it. I know I need a facial because I like to go once a month, but I don't enjoy the experience because they're using different products on my skin every month. And I'm like, okay. And I remember like going to you and you gave me the list of this is what you do, this is what you have to do. It's the only product, like the only thing that's made a significant difference on my skin, because you were analyzing my skin and go, Anisha, like you need to do this and you need to do this. And I've still carried it on. And even during my pregnancy, coming out in skin hives and hot flushes, and you're like, put everything in the fridge, keep it cold, and do the upward lift. It stopped. It stopped after 2 days. I stopped getting it. And I was like, oh my God, it was ridiculous. And I was going to all these people, and I find it really difficult that you say you're a skin expert, but nothing's being treated. And it was just really frustrating. And for me, it's frustrating because you live on the other side of the world. But
yeah,
you are my go-to person to go, look, you know my skin, and please like fix it. Because I've been to so many, and it's a shame, but I still go because I love the massages and it does help lift my skin. But it's a shame that when someone is creating a service, they're not really getting to the root of the problem to go, we need to fix this or fix that,
Yes. I think there's a couple of things that people don't realize is what you see on the surface of your skin is coming from hair and gut health. And stress health and gut health have a huge impact on what we see on our epidermis. I think we're a society where, we have things given to us instantaneously. Yeah. So that instant gratification, when we need to take time to help heal or rebuild things, we're not used to that. And I often say this to my clients, like, I think Amazon has probably been the worst thing in our life, because Amazon has taught each and every individual that you can click a button, and then the next morning when you wake up, your clicked button that you ordered is at your front doorstep. So that instant delivery has taught the human that everything is instant to us. It's given to us on a plate. Your skin is an organ. It is not. What you're struggling with has been there for quite some time. Therefore, a 2-hour facial is not going to instantly fix that. Yeah. It's going to help, heal and start balancing you, but you have to commit time, and you have to 100%. You're going to have to take time to help heal and rebuild that. So I think that's a big key. And then, like you said, when you left that facial that you were completely in love with the esthetician, you internally felt like, wow. And so a lot of my clients will refer to me as a skin therapist, because not only am I working on your skin, but sometimes they're, talking about everything under the sun. And it could be from, challenges with having a baby and going through IVF, and, losses of family and friends, and loss of a job, divorce, so many different things. And that can add such a huge impact to what happens here. So when have the ability to also speak about this and me treat them, that feeling of like, it feels like the weight's been lifted. That's what skin therapy should be, because we're treating you as an entire being rather than just here.
100%. Because when you said Amazon is like instant this, instant that, you're right. It requires commitment, because when I remember coming to see you, my skin was in such a state of sunspots, acne for some reason because of the humidity where I lived. And when you saw me the following year, I was sending you updates of, oh my God, look at my skin. Since then, my skin has never been back to that condition. But I noticed that when I do go to the coast, in 2 days, my skin again goes terrible because the humidity for my skin's not that great. But because I keep up with sun cream 24/7, like all the time, if I've got makeup on, put the brush on, that's going to the sun cream brush. There's no excuse, it's on. And all the products you suggested, my skin is so soft and it glows. And when I put makeup on, I don't really put blusher on, like not blusher, face powder on. I'm like, oh, I just put blusher on, I'm out, and lipstick. And I don't mind that I've not got foundation or concealer on, because I'm like, my skin is in good health. And like you said, it's from the inside out. So thank you. I love this. So, because of your ability to change people's lives and your experience, you've become North America's go-to celebrity, like facialist, therapist.
Wow.
How has that been for you? Because people are trusting you in the TV industry with the skin. So how did that approach work?
It's insane. I think it's something that, I've been doing this for, like I said, 25 plus years. So I started traditionally steaming and extracting and pushing and prodding and doing all these things which were taught to us at school that we had to do, because then that entailed that being the best facial. But over the years, I remember, I couldn't understand when people would be like, this is an acne facial, this is a, anti-aging facial, this is this. And putting people in these headings, subheadings, that never sat right. And so my point is, there was a lot of different things that in my gut didn't sit right with me. And only since I would say probably around 2015 was when I kind of felt confident in my own self by saying, you know what, no, I'm going to challenge this. And I did do it secretly, in a more subdued way when I would work for other companies, and I would challenge, when the reps would come in and they'd say, right, product A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, 4, this is how it works. And I'd be like, oh, but wouldn't it be better if you put, 4 and A together? And they'd be like, no, you never do that. And I was like, oh, okay. And because I would be paying attention to the action of the ingredients rather than the action of the product. And that was, I guess, the differentiator. So over the years, and then, as I said, 2015, I kind of found my voice, and I was like, you know what? No, I'm okay with this. I'm not going to do this, and I'm not going to do this. And this is how I'm going to approach my facials. And I remember it was around 2016 when, I had priced my facials at a certain price point, and people, not everybody, but some people questioned it. Well, what do you do that grants you the ability to, charge that amount? And I said, well, it's my knowledge. It's my experience. I can guarantee you that you will come and have this facial for 2 hours, and it will be the best 2 hours of your life. And I knew that my ability to deliver what they have been struggling with for so long was 100% there. And so I think through that, it allowed me to be confident. And, as with age, I think I have become more confident in my own skin. And that took time. People would challenge different things that I did or why I do it that way. And I found my voice. And so to your point, currently I do have clients who fly in to see me, and I do clients who, walk the red carpet. And recently we had Toronto International Film Festival. And, I was so honored to be able to work on so many different faces, from directors to screenwriters to, people you would know in a heartbeat, but unfortunately I can't mention their names. That, and I was so honored. And it's because I feel like I have confidence, like 100% confidence, to be able to be vocal and say, this is what I'm going to do. And I say this often, like, the ability to have somebody, whether it's the first time or, multiple times, lie there on my table with their eyes closed and never say, well, what facial are you doing? What is this next step? What is this next step? What is this next step? Literally just lie there and put their entire trust in my hands and my knowledge. I am so eternally grateful for the opportunity to be able to continue doing that, because I really do know, like, somebody who is a perfect stranger would never get pretty much butt naked underneath the sheets, close their eyes and let me do whatever to their face. And the fact that I have the ability to be able to do that every single day, I'm so humbled by this opportunity. I'm so grateful. And somebody up there is looking after me. So thank you very much.
That leads me on to my penultimate question, actually. So for many of us, it's a journey to fully understand our skin. It's a process of trial and error. What was your skin understood moment? The moment that you felt like, I've got this, I can do this. And what advice would you give to yourself from when you first started? If you're looking back, what advice would you give yourself?
So the first part of the question was what? Sorry, so repeat the first part of the question.
The first part is, it was trial and error. So what was your skin understood moment? Like the feeling that you, for yourself, that you've got this, what you're doing, you've got this, because you've just gone on to the clients that you've had, your business, you've had your business for so many years prior to COVID, but what clicked and you went, yeah, I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm kicking ass. I'm kicking butts. So please tell me.
90% of the time, I would say I'm like just focused, and that just keeps me, moving at the right speed, so I don't get pushed over. 10% of the time, there's like, oh my God, like, do I got this? And I think you need that 10% to check yourself so you don't get too cocky.
Yeah,
that's my thing.
I like
so
that.
I feel like there's 10% somebody else somewhere in the universe, whatever that higher being is, holds on to, so I don't get too cocky, and it keeps me grounded. And I don't know when that happens. I don't know what happens, but it happens every so often. And I'm like, right, okay, cool. Like, okay, I've got to focus. I'm going to be okay. And most of the time I'm just focused, and I just know that I got to keep moving. And if I keep moving, I'm going to be all right. So I hope I answered that.
Yeah, you did, definitely. And my last question, what's next for Vee and SKINBYVEE?
Well, what's next? Okay, so you guys heard about my gua sha cryo sticks, so super excited. We ship all over the world, so make sure you head to my website and pick them up. I am actually working, and I have been working on SKINBYVEE products for a couple of years. So, I am, and I have been working on that, and so that will come soon. I'm a perfectionist. I want to make sure that every single thing that has Skin by Vee on it will be like 100%, you know, done in such a responsible way that, you know, everybody will enjoy the actual experience of whether it's a tool or a product, and deliver 100% of the results. So that is in the works, and I'm working with a chemist, and I have been for some couple of years, like I said. So I'm super excited about that. Skin by Vee itself will just keep growing. We are in the planning stages of 2023 now.
Wow.
So we have a lot of new projects that we're looking to grow into. So I cannot wait to keep sharing more and more with you guys. For Vee Mistry, I think for Vee Mistry, it's always the one thing, which is, you know, I want to remain present. I want to give myself the permission and the ability to enjoy everything that I do, whether it be, you know, career or, you know, personal. I want to travel more. I want to, you know, just enjoy more of life. You know, I have beautiful friends and family, a very small community that I completely trust with my whole heart, and I love them to bits. But yeah, for Vee, it's always, you know, bringing balance to my life. It's continuing to enjoy life and embrace life, whatever happens. I'm busy. Like my I have 3 kids. They're all growing. You know, 2 are at university. The other one's heading off to university next year. So, you know, it's busy. Me and my husband are, you know, looking at what's next in our world. In, you know, where we want to be, what do we want to do, where do we want to travel to, where do we want to explore. So I'm so excited for life, and I think
that's beautiful. That's
yes.
so beautiful. I'm like leaving with this huge grin on my face, and I'm like, that's so poetic. Like, but it sounds really organic, if that makes sense. It, you know, it's organic and it's warming, and I think it's important for, you know, I'm excited about your skin range. And like the fact you take time for yourself and your journey, but also for your business. And I think, you know, I can't wait to see what 2022, 2023, and 2024 brings for you, because I think it's going to be one fantastic roller coaster, but in an exciting, exhilarating way. So, Vee Mistry, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time today to chat with me. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
I've loved it.
Thanks.
Okay.